Growing up, I was a kid who really was into fantasy. I don't like Harry Potter. I know, I'm sorry. I don't like Diversion. I don't like Hunger Games. And I get slayed for it every single day. People are like, you have to watch it. No, I don't want to. I really wasn't into it growing up. I don't like horror. I don't like horror movies. I will have nightmares for days and need to watch SpongeBob. Like, it's really bad, guys. I really don't like it. I don't like monsters. I don't like ghoul. I'd rather watch a coming of age movie or a comedic drama. I just don't really want to interact with it. But there's always been one monster that I was always intrigued by, one that kind of like slipped into my veins, made me want to ask more, made me willing to just surrender myself to them if they asked me right now. And that monster is vampires. It has really only come recently to my attention how much I enjoyed vampire content. I think that it really struck in my brain when I was in college. 2 years ago, with my college roommate, I sat on my couch and he asked me, "Hey Alicia, have you ever seen Interview with the Vampire?" I furrowed my brows because, well, I've heard of it, from being online or whatnot, but I've never seen it. So we sat there on our couch, and between tears, humor, some really extreme horniness, and a plate of stew chicken, we finished that show. And 7 hours later, we sat there at 2 o'clock in the morning with extreme disbelief at the pure beauty that was Louis de Ponthillac and Lestat de Lioncourt. Interview with the Vampire is a book series created in the 1970s by Anne Rice and has multiple adaptations. It has a movie that was made back in 1994 that stars Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, and a very young Kristen Dunn. And then it also has a retelling series created in 2022 that stars Jacob Anderson and Sam Reed. And I love Interview with the Vampire so much because of just the themes and the homoerotic nature of the show. As a queer girly myself, I love seeing the gays be represented on TV. Now, the original book, Louis is a white plantation owner who is found by the vampire Lestat and becomes his companion. In the 2022 retelling, Louis is a black bootlegger and pimp who owns a liquor bar store thing. It's really hard for me to tell you right now. But I really love the retelling, not only because Louis is black and it develops, and you have to kind of go through that journey of him being black and being in a position of power and wealth in the early 1900s. But I also love the modern retelling because in the movie in the 1990s, 94, they didn't really cover like the idea that Louis and Lestat were lovers. It pretty much kind of alluded to it a little bit. They were like more like brothers, companions. They had this little bit of a homoerotic feel to it, but because it was made in the 90s, they really left out the whole idea of them being lovers in the first place. And I love the fact that Anne Rice also, RIP my girl Anne Rice, she would have loved to see where her work has taken her in the 2020s, but she died right before the TV show premiere. And like the homoerotic nature and the love and the storyline between Lestat and Louis is such an important integral part of the entire series. You know what I mean? So Interview with the Vampire is just the first book in the entire vampire series. I think there's like, I want to get it wrong, but I think it's like 10 books. Like, it's a lot. But Interview with the Vampire is not where my love for vampires started. My love for vampires started back in the early 2000s, like every other girl's love for vampires started with Twilight. Now I have to admit to y'all, guys, I used to be a hater. What? I used to be a hater bad. Like, I was like, I'm not one of those girls who love like Twilight in One Direction. Like, I'm not really into that. Blah, 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 blah. Back when I was like 10. Like, what? Girl, bye. But I grew up watching the Twilight movies because my aunt and my cousins loved them. So every single time like a movie would release, she would go and see it in theaters, or they would get it on like DVD at the moment that it dropped. So I grew up watching the movies. I was a huge hater. I was a Jacob fan just despite everybody. I was a huge Jacob fan just despite everybody. But it wasn't until I got into high school, I was around 16, 17, I went back and I started watching the movies again, and I found a strange comfort in watching these movies. It was strange being able to be like, wow, I love Twilight. And now look at me, 24, I own all the movies. And I'm not ashamed to say that. Because every once in a while I want to go sit down and watch Twilight, and I don't want to have to search through different streaming platforms because one platform has it and then another platform has it, and then it's taken down all together, and then I have to buy it. No, I have all the movies, and I love Twilight, and I love vampires. And the reason why I love vampires, and I think that I love a modern day vampire, because vampires originally, when they were created back in the day, I don't know the history. I'm just telling you, just off the top of my dome. So you can tell me later in the comments. But the original vampire was meant to be scary, to be this ghoul, this monster, this creature, think Nosferatu, which tangent time. I'm sorry for anybody who watches this video and thinks I'm going to talk about that. I'm not. I went to go see the remake of Nosferatu last year in theaters with my best friend. And we got 40 minutes into the movie and said, "What is happening? Can we leave?" And I left the movie and we went to go see Wicked instead. Like, I literally did not like it. I didn't get it. I'm not gonna lie. It was just slow. It was in black and white, and I didn't understand what was happening. So sorry if anybody wants the gore and horror part of vampires. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the modern day love vampires, the yearning vampires, the sensuality of vampires. I love that. That's why I love watching the Vampire Diaries back in the 2000s. I love watching the original. I love vampires because of this sensual nature that they have, this otherworldly way of living that they have. I think that modern vampires in media had this really sexiness about them that intrigues me. And then when we go into the media that we consume with vampires, like Twilight or like Vampire Diaries, how these vampires who pine over these really way too young women, which I will admit, but like the yearning that they have, the love, the lust that they have for one another, the want, the desire to be with someone and be with something that you know that you can't have. I think I really enjoy those themes because those are really emotions that I feel like a lot of people, especially a lot of young women, are not allowed to have in real life. We're not allowed to explore our sexuality and our sensuality in those ways. And I think I really enjoy watching it as a young girl, be able to see it in that way. Another reason why I really enjoy vampire content is because of the immortality of vampires. They're just extended humans. They know what life is like, and they know what death is like, and they know what it is to take, and be immortal and just not give up, turn off your humanity, and just, they go through these cycles for hundreds and thousands of years. I believe that vampires, these monsters, these demons, they hold up a mirror to humans and they make them question their own humanity. There's a book that I'm currently reading called Immortal Dark. A large theme of this book is about the main character, Kidan, and how she is thrusted into this world of vampires, and how she herself has her own secrets and her own evil nature, and how she believes because she's human, it makes her better than these vampires because vampires are just bad. However, the vampire that she is involved with and had this whole storyline with in the book talks to her and says, "You think because I'm a vampire, you are better than me. You think because I'm a vampire, the cruel thing that you and your friends do are more forgiving because you are human." Vampires hold mirrors up to humans, and it forces them to look inward on themselves and their own humanity and see, like, oh, like, am I really morally just? Am I even morally right? And I love those themes in a lot of vampire TV shows. You know what I mean? But that's just one of the small reasons. The real reason why I made this video, because I love the sensuality and the sexiness of vampires. Like, I think about Queen of the Dance with the beautiful R.I.P. Aaliyah. Oh my God, who played Akasha, the living We've seen Akasha. Do y'all know who Akasha is? It oh god, I'm salivating at the mouth. I'm so sorry. But I love I think even though um sorry, I got distracted. Even though Queen of the Damned is based loosely off the second and third book in the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice, it's not it wasn't really viewed as that good. It doesn't have the best scores because it's not book accurate. But I think that it's such a good like representation of what people think vampires are, in like a modern sense, or the reason why I like it. As you guys know, I love myself some rock music. I love myself some metal music. And I think that another reason why I love vampires is my connection to music. And Queen of the Dance, which I only recently found out because my best friend really loves Korn, the band, and the lead singer of Korn did a lot of the music for Queen of the Damned, and you can hear it, like the score of the movie, the really deep punk elements of the movie. It's like it's so sexy, like oh my god, like it lures you in. And I think it's like this would be a whole different connection to like if you want to get real religious about it, which I don't, but like because it's they're not real. Except if you go down to Louisiana, then they're real. I might have to go down there. Guys, tangent, another tangent. I swear to God, I went to a club in New York last year for my friend's birthday, right? And I was about to leave out. I was going to the bathroom and I walked past this guy and I stopped in my tracks. And I was just enthralled by his beauty. He was like this, he was tall, he was like dark skin, like his skin glistened. He was like as dark as the night sky, dark, and he glistened. And he had these really beautiful locks, and he had like those like whiteout contacts lenses, and his entire aura, his entire energy just drew me to him. And I was just kind of like, when there's someone's like you just kind of like stop and you're just staring at somebody. I just stopped and I stared at him, and I had to come back, and I was like, oh my god, you are so beautiful, which I never do. Like I will go to a girl like, "Hey, girl, you look so good." I'll talk to a man like, "Oh my god, you look good," but like he was so beautiful, and I had to tell him that. And he was like, "Oh my god," he had this really deep, sultry voice, and he was like, "Oh my god, thank you, baby." And I just kept going because I couldn't be I something about I was like I have to move on from this conversation, but I was like I feel like I just met a vampire. I swear to God, I know you're gonna think like Alicia, please don't piss me off. I swear to God, that man was a vampire, and he's a vampire, but I just can't prove it. Oh my goodness. What was I talking about before that? Oh, I forgot what I was talking about. The religious aspect of it, how like vampires are commonly like connected to like the devil, and how the devil like really like is lures you in through like the music and all the this and all those different things. I think what I really like about a lot of vampire content, especially like the dark sultry vampire content, is how alluring it is. How captivating it is, and how sexy it is, how it draws you in this like I will want to be a part of that world. And I'll admit it, I would love to be a part of that world. As I'm reading this book, I'm like, it's absolutely terrifying, and it's a little scary, and it has some like body gore in small bits of it, but it was like I would love to like be in a world where like I would interact with vampires, and like this is so silly. Like this entire thing is so silly. This is just my thoughts, and I had to say that out loud because I love vampire content so much. But yes, literally, I just think it's so silly, but like I love it. Like I can't really explain it any deeper than that, rather than the fact that how much I love vampire content, and how whenever something new about vampire content comes out, I'm going to hop on it. And if you have like book recommendations, specifically like black like book like recommendations with that has like vampires in them, girls, send them over here to your girl. You know what I mean? But yes, but also I believe that life imitates art. Duh. And I think I love vampires so much that I somehow manifested my way into two shows that required me to be a vampire randomly, you know? I did a production of Dance Nation by Claire Barron in college, and there was a scene where all the dancers have like this kind of like imaginary like dance break where they turn into like little baby vampire monsters, and we staged it where we had like actual like blood and fangs, and we go in and we do like a whole like dance routine and to like Monster by Nicki Minaj, RIP Magna Minaj. But yeah, like it was really insane and really crazy. Like there was so much like I love the idea that we were able to use blood in that show. And it was just so sensual and sexy, and like I had like a little solo and it was super cute. And then also I did another play for New York Theater Festival with a friend of mine called Feminazi. And pretty much I played the character Wallace, and Wallace is seduced by the leader of this vampire cult named Betty, and her little minions were man-eating feminist vampire lesbians. Yeah, all those words were amazing, and that's what drew me into the play as well. And it's a comedy, and it's about how these vampires come into this town and they start eating the men in town, and then they seduce my character Wallace, and Wallace ends up coming and becoming a vampire with them. And then there's this big fight scene at the end of the show, and Wallace and Betty runs off into the sunset, and Wallace also like leaves her like longtime girlfriend behind. It's like, no, I'm a vampire now. But I think it's just so cool the fact that like I've been able to play vampires in something. I would love to like play a vampire like on TV, like in a show or something like that. I think that would be really cool. I just really love like that aspect is like of supernatural things I would love to do, you know. And I didn't come into this with any like real like research or anything like that. This was just to give my like admiration on vampires, and I think the reason why I love vampires and all the vampire stuff that I love watching and growing up. But also I love like the kooky like vampire stuff, like the Brooklyn Vampire with Eddie Murphy. I thought that was a really funny movie. I also really liked Blade growing up with I forgot who was the actor who played Blade. My mom really loved like action movies growing up, so I grew up watching Blade. I grew up watching Underworld, you know, which was like the did Underworld have vampires in it, or was that just werewolves? I think it was vampires and werewolf type things in it. I grew up watching those as well. I just grew up watching vampire content or content that inquired that had different vampires in them. And I think the thing I liked about it again is like this kind of like otherworldly nature about them being human, but them not being human. You know what I mean? And yeah, I just wanted to come up and express my admiration for vampires and tell you that you should watch Interview with the Vampire season 1 and season 2 because it's coming out. Season 3 is coming out this summer. Woo! And if you love Twilight, let me know in the comments. We could talk about that. And if you grew up watching Vampire Diaries in the originals, tell me about that as well. Because I only got to season 5 of Vampire Diaries. I think the moment Elena died, that's when I stopped watching it. But I watched the originals 3 times, and I also watched Legacies up until it got canceled, which sucks because Legacies has so much potential, but they just missed the mark. And if you have any other like vampire movies and content or books that you would like to recommend me, let me know, and I would love to read it. I would love to watch it. And if you understand what I mean by like why I like vampires, or if you have any other reasons why you love vampires, leave it down in the comments. And that's all I have to say today. So yes, thank you. Bye.